Hello everyone and welcome to Tom's Drams, and this is the Dram of the Week. This is Highland Park 12. This is the first review I'm gonna do. Welcome. So, a very welcome to this new channel. This is my first review. This is the Highland Park 12, one of my really favorite scotches. This is generally considered a beginner scotch, so if you're just getting into whiskey, this one is a really nice one. It's bottled at 40%, so it's not too strong. 40% is the least amount of alcohol that whiskey should have in order to be called whiskey. So, I mean, this one isn't too strong. Of course, if you're going to have a whiskey for the very first time, it's going to be a little bit strong for you. But this one is going to be a really good choice. It's going to be light enough, but it is very complex, especially for this dilution level. It is incredibly complex and forgiving and sweet and wonderful. So this is really an amazing dram. I love this one very much. This is Highland Park. This is distilled in Kirkwall, which is kind of unusual. They're kind of alone in that. So as far as I'm aware, it's the only distillery on Kirkwall. So they are kind of in the north on a separate island, and this is where they make Highland Park. This one is 12 years old. This is, I think, the cheapest one that they make. I'm not sure, but this is kind of the staple Highland Park. It's just a really good one to start out with. So this one is really a dram that I would have as my second dram. If you're just getting into whiskey, this would be the second one that I would have. The first one I would start out with would be something like a Speyside, something like a Glenfiddich or something like a Glenfiddich 12 or something. I really like for a really starter whiskey. But Highland Park 12 is really a good one if you want to get in more of the smokier whiskeys, because this one has a really small amount of peat smoke added to the barley. So the barley is actually dried with peat smoke. So that creates a nice smoky flavor that you're going to get in this one. Sometimes, for some people, it can be hard to find. It kind of depends on what you are sensitive to. If you're very sensitive to the smoke particles in your nose, then you're going to get a lot of smoke out of this one. But this one is really a small amount of smoke. Before you want to get into the Lafroigs, the Ardbegs, the more of Islay, the more Islay whiskeys. This one is really a nice one to start out with smoky whiskey. There we go. I do not have that much left, so I probably should restock on this one pretty soon. And I have to finish this one, obviously, because obviously when you have this much, air in the bottle, it can start to oxidize. Wow, I'm already smelling all of that fruit. There's so much fruitiness in this one. So this one has been aged in ex-bourbon barrels and has been finished in ex-sherry barrels. So you get that nice, sherry flavor in there. If you ever had sherry wine, it's a fortified wine from Spain. And this one has been finished in that. So it really gives, it kind of takes the edge off. The ex-bourbon barrels kind of smooth out a whiskey. And they give a lot of vanilla flavors, but the sherry, for me especially, they bring out, the ex-sherry barrels, they give out a lot of the fruitiness. Yeah. So for me, this one is really, all about that honey. This is so much honey in here. That's the first thing you'll get. That's always the first... there's always one note that really jumps out at you the first time you smell a whiskey. And for me, this is definitely honey. And for me, I really have to look for the peat smoke. The peat smoke is kind of hard to find for me because I'm kind of used to a lot smokier whiskeys. I really am a big fan of the Islay whiskeys. But this one, for me, it is a lot of honey, a lot of caramel. Some orange in there. Definitely some orange. If you smell a little bit longer, you get a little bit of that fruitiness as well. Every time you're smelling a whiskey, there's always a really, broad category of flavors that you're going to get. Sweet, bitter, something like that. This one is very sweet on the nose at first glance. And then when you get sweetness, you start kind of looking for, okay, which kind of sweetness is this? And for me, in the beginning, it's definitely honey, like I said. But then if you start looking further into the sweetness, there's really different kinds in here. So you have honey sweetness, but definitely orange as well. Think about oranges in your mind and then smell this. You'll definitely get some oranges. Some caramel. And always with a sherry finished whiskey, I always get, this sherry finish. So the sherry nuttiness, sherry cask for me really is kind of nutty. It has a lot of walnuts, a lot of hazelnuts in there. And you get that with this one, definitely. And then for me, what I always get with this one is kind of like a sea minerality, kind of like, it's like minerals from the sea. That's what I get from this one, really slightly, but that is a note you really have to dig for it. I'm not saying it's the most apparent note in this one because it's not. It's definitely dominated by honey. Let's see what they say about it themselves. So they say, Highland Park themselves says, is the heather honey, all right, rich fruitcake, winter spices, Seville oranges, there we go, and aromatic smoky peat. So they go into it deeper, Seville oranges, whatever that means. But for me, I definitely get the oranges. Fruitcake, yeah, I can see what they're going for. There is kind of like a bready, taste to it as well, or smell to it. And winter spices, yeah, maybe some like cinnamon or something like that. When you're really thinking about those spices, you really start to get them. So let's take a sip. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Always when you swallow a scotch, when at the moment you're swallowing, you get a burst of flavor because those aromas, those scents are getting into your nose and you smell much more than you taste. So what I get from this is initially a slight bit of bitterness, a slight bit of oaky bitterness that then, changes. There's a couple seconds where you get that, and then suddenly, as you're spreading it around your mouth, you're spreading it along your palate, you're spreading it at the tip, at the sides of your tongue, the middle of your tongue, and then it just explodes in sweetness. You get so much honey, some sweet fruitiness in there. Definitely, yeah. Well, paired with the bitterness, it definitely has an orange peel and also juicy orange in there. Juicy orange and a slight orange peel note in there. And the finish is, with you get a lot of that sherry sweetness. The smokiness definitely is stronger on the taste than it is on the smell, definitely for me. Wow, on the nose. This is really complex. This is one that you can really, even as an advanced whiskey drinker, you can really enjoy this one for many years. It's 12 years old only. It's relatively, young for a Scotch. As far as Scotches go, 12 years is considered pretty young. But this one is so nice. And it just stays good. You keep finding new things in Highland Park 12. It's just such a gem. And then at the very finish, because it's still going, it's still changing. As you move your tongue around your mouth, it just is coated with the whiskey. And then you get some lingering, like, dusty oak, something like that, some dustiness, But mostly sweetness. Sweetness keeps going, and now it's kind of done right now. So it keeps going for a long time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it definitely explodes. The sweetness definitely explodes. Now, when I'm swallowing it, I'm definitely getting a little bit more of an oaky tang after the second sip. The first sip, for me, is a little bit of bitterness in the beginning, then just sweetness, fruit, juicy oranges, a slight cherry nuttiness. Now, at the second sip, for me, it's a little bit more oaky, a little bit more bitter, coupled with that cherry nuttiness that's coming up more now. It's really good. I will link my list below. You can check it out there. It gets an 82 out of 100 for me, which is a really good score, obviously. It's a really good dram. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers.